Hello and welcome to the GLP-1 Hub podcast. I'm your host, Anna Reisdorf, registered dietitian and GLP-1 user. Today we have another one of my colleagues on, Carrie Gabriel, the home cooking dietitian, because she's all about cooking from home to be healthier. And this is one of those conversations that really changed my mind about a certain topic related to GLP-1. Carrie has always been very physically active, in great shape, like really takes care of her body and that kind of stuff. But perimenopause hit and she seemingly gained 20 pounds overnight. And I know that a lot of people on GLP-1s are struggling with, weight much, much bigger than just 20 pounds from their normal body weight. But before I probably would have judged somebody for using GLP-1 for just losing 20 pounds. But she gave some interesting points of view in this interview about, if you are going into perimenopause or you are having some kind of issue, like, should you just continue to wait until you're 50 pounds overweight before you start the medication? So we have an interesting discussion about it, and I am completely open-minded. Using this medication for weight loss is relatively new. It's only been approved for weight loss for a couple of years. And so I don't think everybody has all the answers. And especially now that it's not really in shortage and you can get it from places, I think that there's going to be a lot more uses for it. So it's an interesting conversation and just something to think about. And I try to bring all perspectives to the show. If you need a little support for your GLP-1 journey, in the show notes, you can find a 7-day meal plan, and that is completely free. You can just grab it. And when you grab that meal plan, you will also be put on the email list for the show. And that's where I send weekly tips about weight loss, your GLP-1 journey. I share brands and special discounts, everything that's going on with the whole entire GLP-1 Hub universe. Grab that meal plan. It's a 7-day high protein, low calorie meal plan, and get on the email list. And that is all. I'm ready to get on with the show. But first, a word from our sponsor. As a dietitian, I always prefer that you get your nutrition from food and not supplements. But being on a GLP-1 makes that really challenging. So I do recommend that most GLP-1 users take a supplement that has a variety of nutrients to be sure they're meeting their daily needs while on a calorie deficit. Grüns totally meets that criteria. Grüns are a convenient, comprehensive formula packed into 8 gummies a day. The gummies are loaded with 60 ingredients and a whopping 6 grams of fiber to keep that gut flowing. This isn't a multivitamin, a greens gummy, or a prebiotic. It's all of those things and then some at a fraction of the price. And bonus, it tastes great, so meeting your nutrient needs is super easy. If you want to give them a try, you can use the code GLP-1 Hub POD. That's GLP, the number 1 Hub pod at grüns.co to get up to 52% off your order. All right, welcome to the GLP-1 Hub podcast. I want to welcome one of my friends and colleagues, Carrie Gabriel. She is known online as the home cooking dietitian because she likes to encourage you to cook at home. I just saw yesterday you posted, maybe it was yesterday, something came up on my feed from you that said, "Oh, how long are you sitting in the fast food line? You could have this great meal in less time." Nice. So anyway, if you're looking for inspiration for cooking, she is your gal. But we want to talk about her experience with GLP-1 as a dietitian. So welcome, Carrie.
Hi, Anna. How are you?
Good, good.
Good.
So tell me a little bit about yourself and kind of your background as a dietitian and the type of work you've been doing since you became an RD, just so people can know a little bit more about you.
Okay, so I became a dietitian in 2013. I got my license. And at the time, I really liked corporate wellness. So I was doing a bunch of corporate wellness style work. I was working as a nutrition specialist for Guggenheimer. A couple other companies. I did a lot of freelance work where I'd go to different corporations and do like teaching kitchens, nutrition education tables, and specifically with Guggenheimer and certain companies, I had accounts where I'd go and there'd be a theme every month, and it was a lot of fun and I enjoyed it. I think some of the funding has kind of like ebbed and flowed for that stuff over the years. So I've always been a dietitian who wore several hats. Personally, the reason I became a dietitian was because I liked food and I liked cooking, and I liked the idea of helping people. I also liked the idea of doing something more glamorous, like maybe in media or being on TV or, I had a whole bunch of ideas of things I wanted to do. And so when I finally got my license, I still was doing a whole bunch of things, and I still now I'm doing a whole bunch of different things. So yeah, that's
Good.
kind of where I am.
Do you have professional training in cooking, or you just like to cook?
I don't have any professional training, actually. I took a course through a couple of dietitians during COVID. It was the Culinary Nutrition Collaborative. They had a beta course at the time, and I took that. And that kind of gave me a couple more ideas on like how to make fish skin crispy and like how to, poach an egg a certain way. There were just like different tricks that they taught us, and that was fun. And I use some of that stuff now to this day in my cooking. I think that COVID really upended a lot of things in our profession. And so that was something that I got more into during COVID. Like I learned how to bake a layered cake, we had time. I learned how to do sourdough. Did you learn how to do sourdough?
No, but I had a wonderful friend who couldn't stop baking sourdough, so she would drop it off on my porch during COVID. So I got to enjoy it without doing it. I had two toddlers at home at the time, so it was kind of a nightmare for me. But that's besides the
for
point.
a lot of people. Yeah.
Anyway, so in terms of home cooking, like you're really into people cooking at home. So can you just like explain really quick why you think they should cook at home more?
So my backstory on that actually comes from like more personal experience. So in my 20s, I got my bachelor's degree in broadcast journalism. And I had this vision that I would go be, the next VJ, if you recall those times, or something kind of like a television anchor type thing. And when I did my internship in my undergrad, I realized how chaotic and insane the newsroom was. So I was doing multiple jobs, and one of them was dancing in a nightclub. And I needed to maintain a certain sort of physique. And it was a little bit stressful for me, but I did, you could be any kind of woman you wanted in that sort of industry. People have a vision of everyone being on drugs, everyone being a certain way. But there were a lot of women who I saw coming into work, and they had these little Tupperware cases with food in them, and they'd put them in their locker in coolers or whatever. And I'm like, what is going on? And a lot of them were very fit. And so through these women, that was kind of what I started to see like, oh, she's got chicken and broccoli and brown rice in that one. Oh, she's got salmon and a sweet potato in that one. Like there's, all different kinds of foods that they would bring with them. And I guess I never really saw that as a kid. My parents both worked full time. I got, peanut butter and jelly and a high C juice box with my lunch. And so I never really saw, maybe my mom carried things like that. So when I started to see that, I was like, oh, I could probably do that at home, and I would have energy at work instead of starving myself or whatever else I had been doing at the time. And so that kind of began me learning, going to the grocery store, like buying chicken, looking through the seasoning aisles. It kind of taught myself. And then I realized I could eat and feel good and still stay at a weight that I felt good at, and just overall health and weight that I felt good at. So that was kind of the beginning of me cooking at home. I mean, it's evolved since then. I don't cook everything from scratch, but I think nowadays there are so many options, like vegetables that are already chopped up in a bag or chicken that's already shredded up. I am very sensitive to eating things that are pre-seasoned or pre-sauced or what have you. I notice the difference. And it's not that I don't eat those things, but I think more people over time, as I became a dietitian and worked with more people, I would see people who, when they lost weight, and we're talking 10, 15, 20 pounds, the way they kept it off for years and years was a lot of times eating more of the same things on a daily basis, but also just rotating through like kind of what they cooked at home. There was chicken, there was fish, there was ground turkey, there were certain salads, there was a plethora of seasonings and marinades they created. And I think that that's really one of the keys for people to stay, nourished and in the weight range that they feel comfortable.
Right. So why do you think that we Like, I know people use the excuse, like, of time. Like,
Mhm.
time, it's faster for me to pick something up, or maybe that's an excuse for some people, you know? Like, what do you think it is? You think it's, like, just time, or do you think there's something else that causes people to, like, eat out and make less than ideal choices?
I think there's a few things. I think that it's partially when people have busy lives, say you have kids, say you have a commute for work, say you have, yeah, a commute, you have kids, you have a commute for work, you have all kinds of things you want to do with your day. For some people, it's just kind of implanted in their mind, like, I'm just going to pick up Chick-fil-A, I don't know, Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, or whatever it may be, just because I don't want to like be rushing around doing this, doing this, doing this. And then it's like the last priority on my menu. Okay, now I'm starving. Half the time we wait way too long to eat. And then it's like at that point in time, the thought of going into your kitchen and pulling things out of the fridge or the pantry and putting them on the stove or in the microwave even is like, that just sounds like a hassle. Let me just pick it up and bring it home. And I think that's where typically where people are waiting till they're starving. And then, when you're starving, like certain things start to sound better to you than like
Mhm.
making your own food. It's like, that In-N-Out burger sounds great,
Right,
So
right.
the
I
blood
think
sugars and that whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I live a busy life. We have kids and all the things, but I think for me it's like one more thing to think about. So it's not really the preparation of it, it's trying to decide what to make. For me personally, I've started doing the meal kits that they send the items, and then it's like
Hmm.
everything that I need for the meal is there, and you can like there's so many of these things now where you can, and I think they're pretty tasty and
Yeah.
healthy. Like you mix, it doesn't come pre-seasoned or anything, but, like, just the ability to not think about it, like, takes so much emotional baggage off my plate, you
Yeah,
know?
and those meal kit things are great. I mean, that wasn't always around, but I think
Mhm.
that those have evolved over time and they are great and they come like you can even choose how much of the seasoning you want to use. You can choose the amount you want to use. And I think that is the biggest issue is the choice, how do I say this? The choice to choose.
Mhm.
Like you can look at something and say, okay, I have chicken. They give me a seasoning packet. This is a lot of sauce. Maybe I'm going to use half of it. But when you are even doing, I call it food assembly. This is another like part of my home cooking dietitian repertoire. It's not just home cooking, it's food assembly where like you take things in your kitchen and you decide, okay, I'm making this. Here's the sauce. Here's how much I want to use. Whereas when you're going to a restaurant or a drive through, unless you ask for none of this or none of that, it is on there for you. For you, you don't have a choice of how much of something, the said item is used. So when you're cooking at home, you have a choice of how much sauce, sugar, salt, whatever it may be, you want to add to your food. So I
Right.
think being a little bit more in control also helps people with like weight management.
Sure,
But I do
definitely.
those kits are great. There's nothing wrong with those. I mean, yeah, there are some that are better than others, some that have more nutrient dense items, if you will, and some that don't. But I
Yeah.
don't see a problem with any of that, especially if you have kids. I mean, for me, I just have me. So I do take that into consideration. If it's just me or it's just
Mhm.
you and significant other, like before your kids, what kind of choices you make with your significant other, it's easier. And then when kids come in the mix, it's more difficult.
Yeah.
You have to
So,
just see
yeah,
what they like.
it's it helps me customize it a little bit more, so and then, like, I have the items there, so I don't have to buy a lot. I feel like there's a little bit less waste. I feel like we eat actually more vegetables because they send more variety than I would personally probably buy. So, I think overall for us in this phase right now, it's really working. But, you came up with this, like, cooking at home method with your little Tupperwares that you saw your friends have and all this thing, and for a long time, you're very, physically active, and being a former dancer, and that seemed to really be working for you. But tell me what happened when this horrible perimenopause came for you. That's coming for me too.
Ooh, I mean, it's like, unfortunately, because of social media, we see people say, like, oh, this doesn't happen. You're just being lazy. It's this, it's that. And I will tell you, if you asked me 10 years ago, even 5, 10 years ago, I would have said, like, it's never going to happen to me. I'm always going to be able to take care of this. I'm always going to be the same, whatever it may be. Right. And I'd say, so I'm 47 now. And I'd say about 2 years ago, it just, I couldn't tell you exactly what the shift was. I think I used to be a long distance runner too. Running and dancing, I definitely was a little more active, but I just felt like my weight stayed around the same 5 to 7 pounds one way or the other. And all of a sudden, it just seemed like what was around 138 to 140, which is where I feel most comfortable, was all of a sudden 155, almost up to 160. And while that's not a massive shift, I think the problem where we have issues that go out of control are where people say, oh, it's just 10 pounds, oh, it's just 15 pounds, and you let it get up to 30 and 40 and 50, and then it's harder to lose. For me, that 15 or so pounds freaked me out. Now, I was exercising excessively too, like strength training with a friend and working out. And I also tend to have issues with emotional eating. I'm fully transparent with my nighttime snacking, and that was maybe getting out of control too. And all of a sudden the things in the past that worked for me to eliminate this or eliminate that or don't eat late at night, they weren't working anymore at all. And I just suddenly felt like everything was tight. The bulges that were small were bigger than I had remembered. And it just, I didn't feel like myself anymore.
Mhm. And now it's time for our Hero Bread tip of the week. And this is an awesome meal prep recipe. I will be making this in just a few weeks over on the Instagrams and the TikToks. So you're going to want to go over there and see it in action. So start by layering the brand new Hero elbows in a mason jar. Diced grilled chicken, chopped bell peppers, cucumber, and feta cheese. Add a little bit of Italian dressing before you serve and mix it all up. And that is a portable lunch with 35 plus grams of protein. So it's a great, great option if you work in an office, you need to take it to go. If you want to try Hero Bread and all of their amazing products, including the elbows and all the things, going to want to use the code GLP-1 Hub. That's GLP, the number 1 Hub. You can get 10% off your order at hero.co. So besides working out a lot and trying to not eat snacks at night and that kind of thing, so why did you decide to try a GLP-1 to manage this perimenopausal 15 pounds?
So I live in LA.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's all be clear. LA, the land of shallow, superficial people. Do I consider myself that? No, but I'm a woman. I have my vanity things like many of us do. And I had a girlfriend I had made through a friend app or whatever that I was hanging out with. And she was so skinny, probably too skinny, to be honest. And I did not realize, after months of being friends and I can't remember exactly how it came out, but she told me that she had been diagnosed as pre-diabetic, which whether or not that's true, I don't know, but she had been on Ozempic for I think 2 years, supposedly. And she's like, I was really heavy, whatever. Okay. And I don't know, it just got me thinking. I was like, I just kind of wondered, what would it be like for me? Could I try it? If I didn't like it, I could stop. There were so many out. And then, of course, since we got to talking about it, when you talk about things and then you go on your Facebook or what have you, and they have targeted ads, they find you.
Yes. Yes.
So after we had
Yes.
talked about it, yep, that's kind of what happened. We had talked about it, and then I was on Facebook scrolling and I saw one of these, targeted weight loss groups that, summertime, this was last summer, it was June, and I saw a 3-month promo for one of these companies. And I set up a consult for myself. I was just like, I'm curious to see if A, they would accept me, and B, I'm curious about what it would be like. I really am. It's just
Sure.
kind of natural to, when you see other women around you having success with something when it comes to weight, I think it's just, unfortunately, I don't know about you, but being in my mid 40s, I grew up in diet-centric society. My
Mm-hmm.
mom was always on a diet. We
Yep.
had fat-free cookies and fat-free everything in the house. Even to this day, it's like my mom will eat something in her 70s and say, I'm being bad. What do you do when you grow up in that kind of society? I know that things have changed, but it's kind of forever embedded, I think, in me. So I was
Right.
curious.
I think there is pressure, like social pressure, and even in my community near Nashville, I feel like there's sort of I don't know, it's unspoken, like sort of an in group, and you see how they act around how they look and, that kind of thing, and you can tell that the people that don't fit into that mold are not really included in the same way. And maybe it's like subconscious, maybe I'm reading into it because I too was raised with a mother who was a Brazilian, and Brazilians really care about their appearance. And I'm not sure, but when you went to the online program or whatever, did they give you a hard time at all, or were they just like, "Here, go get it"? Like, how did that work? Because for me, like, it wasn't hard to get online at all. Now, of course, you gotta be a little bit more cautious these days because everybody's trying to get a piece of this thing.
This time last year, I made a consult. I had a phone call. Before the phone call, they have you like enter your height and weight into the system. I think in full transparency, I think I might have added 10 pounds to my weight just because I wasn't sure. But whether or not I did, they didn't flinch. I
Mhm.
mean, I wonder if I had been severely underweight or something, if they would have. I don't know. But they were, yeah. Do I think most of these companies want your money? Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had a phone conversation about 20 minutes long, and I was in, and I think maybe the next day or so, they sent out the 3-month supply.
Did they offer you any additional resources? I mean, I know you're a dietitian, but like a consult with a dietitian or ongoing follow-up or anything?
So this particular company, so you paid for the 3 months, and you also like it was a little bit more because you also had to pay for a membership. It's like an ongoing like
Mhm.
group so that like there was an app, there was like a chat group. There was, they'll send you questions like, how much are you on this month? Like, how are you feeling? And there's obviously a hotline to call if you don't feel right and that kind of thing. They definitely had all of the bells and whistles where like you could ask for help. I never did. But
Sure.
there was online resources of things you could read, and yeah, that was it. It
Mhm.
came easily, and they actually had a YouTube video that linked to show you how to inject it. And my first month was like well under what I believe is the therapeutic dose anyway. They started you, which I actually am grateful to them for that. I didn't start at like the regular dose that most, I think, when people start through a doctor
Mhm.
through their PCP, they have a certain dose they start at, like 0.20, and I think I started at 0.5, and then the next month was like 1, and then the next month was 2. So because of that, it was okay for me.
Okay. So no side effects or like major issues with it at all.
You know, I think because I already eat relatively well during the day. I mean, yes, initially I did like part of not eating, and you can agree or disagree, is like the nausea. It's there, but I got used to it. And also, I think what the nausea is telling you is that you do need to eat something
Mhm.
sometimes. So it's just a matter of kind of retraining you to like eat more frequently and less. So I really felt like once I figured out what it was doing, I was okay. But yes, there
Okay.
were moments of nausea. For sure, there were moments of nausea. Definitely some constipation, but each week as you get into like the third or fourth day, that would kind of subside. And also, I love fiber and I eat a lot of it. And I drink a lot of water. So it
Mhm.
wasn't really
Too bad.
horrible.
Right. And so how long did it take you to lose the weight that you wanted on it?
So I was on a 3 month, and then I got another 3 month.
Mhm.
And at that point, because I was probably around 157, 158. And by the end of 6 months, I'm at like 137, 138,
Okay.
somewhere
So
in there.
you
hmm
took it pretty slow to lose 20
hmm
pounds.
Because I ate, like I went over, I didn't. Where some people might have I heard about people having like one piece of toast a day or
Oh gosh,
something.
yeah.
Like I would make myself have like shakes or things that were easier for me to eat. Like if
Mhm.
I didn't feel like having chicken, I would just have more shakes, things like
Right.
that.
Right. So you weren't, because I do feel like it's appealing to ride that no hunger wave sometimes. But as you said, like it leads to nausea. It could actually make constipation worse if you don't have enough fiber or aren't eating anything, or weight loss that's too quick and lose muscle because you have a significant amount of muscle from the physical activity you do.
And I was also prepared to lose a little bit because I do think so what happened to me is initially, like what I did feel was I felt tired. I
Mm.
felt more fatigue. So my workouts were not quite as intense. And I think that caused some muscle. I mean, I see how this thing works. Like it's a little bit like, okay, I feel a little more tired. I'm not consuming as much. Probably that's got something to do with that. And my workouts are not as crazy as they used to be. Okay, that's probably fine. I'm getting older and I don't need to be killing myself. And I mean, I've had issues with my cortisol, so that was something I was able to kick back on, not as intensive workouts. So therefore, I'm already going to eat less. It kind of like is this spiral of like, I'm a little more tired. I'm working out. It's not as intense. I don't need to eat as much. I'm more tired. Does that make sense? Kind of
Yeah.
just spiraling, but not so intense that I'm like, okay, now I'm like underweight. Like when I
Hmm.
got to a place where I felt like, okay, I didn't think this would happen, but here we are. I'm still eating. I'm just not eating as much.
And so
So,
so you lost the weight, you got to the weight that you normally feel comfortable at. So then
mhm.
what was your plan? Because you don't want to get like so underweight, like you said,
I'm
either.
I think I'm a little bit more used to it now, I guess. So, but also, and I'll admit, I don't know if this is a bad thing to do, but there are times where I'll have a month's supply and I'll take 2 weeks worth and then I'll take a week off. And that I feel like my weight has stayed pretty stable. And like, yeah, there are times where I feel really hungry and I overeat. I think that happens at some points in time when you're on this, especially towards the end of the week, or when I take a week off towards the end of that week, I'm like, whoo, I just want to eat everything. So that's a little bit scary because I feel like my hunger has been muted for the whole year. Like I eat because I know I need to.
Hmm.
And there are times where it's like this morning, it's like, I haven't had anything yet.
Hmm.
So, and it's
Right.
almost 10 a.m. But
So you were telling me in a different conversation that we have that you actually kind of like feeling hungry sometimes, which is part of why you've been doing that. So
yeah, I
how do
mean,
you make it so it doesn't get out of control? Or maybe you just let it and then just get back on for the 2 weeks.
oh, you mean like out of like the hunger out of
Hmm.
control? I mean, I remember the things that are good, like eating, we dietitians stress this all the time, making sure you get your protein, making sure you get your fiber. Like those are two of the main, nutrients that I make sure I get enough of. Like
Hmm.
each meal is minimum probably 25 to 30 grams of protein for me. And then I don't really do protein chips or protein cookies, but like there'll be, nuts and seeds and just things that usually will add up to, I'd say for me, around 120-ish grams of protein a day. I know as an active person, I need at least that.
Hmm.
And I try to make it work. I like animal protein, so it's not super difficult. But yeah, I mean, I will admit there are times where I'm making things now, say for social media or what have you. And I mean, again, I'm a party of one, so it's already too much as it is sometimes, but I will just not feel like eating. And it's almost scary, liberating, but then scary
Hmm.
sometimes, like to never feel like hungry, like ravishing, those feelings when you're like, say you're going to go to a restaurant with a friend, right? Or your husband or someone, and you're like excited to go. You're like, I'm hungry. We're going to try all these things. Like, now, I'm sure this has happened to you where you go and you're like, I'm excited to go, but like, I don't really feel like that hungry. This is weird. Like, I'm going to eat, but
Yeah,
it's like a little safety net, I guess.
you almost can't you can't eat as much as maybe you want for certain things. Like we went to this raclette restaurant in Paris where like you
Hmm.
melt cheese onto your plate, and I just wanted to eat all day. Like that's what I would have wanted to do, is just it was all you can eat too. And I
Hmm.
know we didn't get our money's worth. And my husband, he's just like not a food person, so to him like all you can eat cheese, like whatever, like I'll have some and it's like I'll just let it go. So I was just like a little disappointed in that. Like I still got to have some, but it was like not nearly as much as I would have wanted to eat. But maybe that's just where we're at. So
It is. I hear you because there are times where like the old me who would have like when I had like moments where I'd binge, it was a very real thing. It'd be like, oh, I bought this little sheet cake from Trader Joe's and I'm going to sit here and eat all of it. And like the reality is because your digestion is slowed on the GLPs, like I'll have a couple bites and I'll drink some water and then like I can feel it you can feel it sitting in there and it's like I'm good. And I think
Mhm.
also I don't know about you, but if I eat too much of something that's unhealthy, the acid reflux is horrible because it's sitting in there. So,
Right. Right. It's kind of finding that balance. So, as you're moving forward with continuing through this lovely menopausal transition,
woo,
what
for
is your
fun.
plan for incorporating GLP-1 or not into your program?
So my dad is a type 2 diabetic, and he's actually, I did not know this until recently, but he had been on metformin and then he had been on Ozempic for a while. And he's on it for life. I feel like he might be switched. I think he might have switched back to metformin because he's pretty thin now, like almost
Mm.
too thin. But my point of saying that is, I think I am not diabetic yet that I know of, according to my doctors. So I may I kind of want to get off of it and see what happens. I'm curious. I know most people say you gain the weight back, which is possible, but I feel like because I have a lot of the same habits, I'm curious to see A, will I gain it back? B, how quickly will it come back? Because I've managed to stay like in this, 15 to 20-ish pound loss for a year. you know, I think it's going to be depressing to see if it comes, look, would I expect 5 pounds to come back? Yes. Would I want all of it to come back? The minute I see more than 5 pounds, I probably freak out and go back on it. So,
Yeah, no, but the way that I've kind of been looking at least for me, because I'm just a couple years younger than you, is like this hormone thing isn't going to get better for at least a while.
no.
So I don't know, when is menopause over, like 50, 55, something like that. And so I just want personally some support to get through that transition, which I think is crazy. And then I can see where I'm at when that stabilizes a little bit. And, you know, maybe it'll be forever, but like it's just such a tool to not have that 15, 20, 30, 40 pound gain that you then are never going to lose because you're just going to get older, you know. So if it can help me, it's kind of like taking the hormones that I take. If they can help me, like I'm not going to take progesterone forever, but if it can help me right now so I'm not completely insane and trying to murder the people in the house, like I think that will be a tool to help me cope.
I think this is a thing, again, it's been hated on and shamed. Like people are, oh my God, how could you? You're a dietitian, this, that, the other. But the reality is, getting to this age and going into perimenopause and then menopause, thank God now there are so many more dietitians who are doing the research and, looking into like why things are the way they are, why we feel these ways. Like there are people who have like episodes of rage. There are all kinds of like mood swings. Like the weight gain is just another thing. So if you can like kind of eliminate some of that, like there's still other stuff you have to deal with. But I also think like with the weight loss, with the curbing of appetite, maybe for myself, I'm eating less sweets. So therefore I am less like depressed or angry or what have you. Like the mood swings might be a little bit less, or you feel better about yourself. So you're happier. Like I think in general, screw what anyone else says. You have to be happy with you. And that's first and foremost. Obviously, I don't want to find out in a few years that all these GLPs cause something. But, I mean, look, everybody's like side effects, side effects, side effects. Guess what? Obesity has side effects too.
Mhm.
Okay. So everything has side effects. We're all going to die one day. You should be happy, whatever you can afford, whatever you choose. It's your life. And that's how I look at it. And I think if it's one less thing to deal with during the transition into like being an older woman, then so be it. Like, I got a few things I like to do. This is one of them. And I dye my hair and get a few tweaks here and there every now and then because look, I'm vain. We all have elements of that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Mhm.
Like you're allowed.
Right, right, definitely. When I invited you to come on, I said you might get some hate because I've been experiencing some hate on the internet too. They love it. And but I think that that's really the point is like how do you feel? What else are you dealing with in your life? And like before you judge somebody else, you can't really like understand their emotional state and why they feel like this is the right path for them. And it can be said about Ozempic or GLP-1s, and it could be said about Botox, and it could be said about boob jobs or whatever, like a lot of different things.
I mean, the internet gives people carte blanche to just say whatever they want behind a screen and be as nasty as they want. Would they say that to you in person? Probably not. So to me, there's going to be hate no matter what you do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let them, I guess, whatever
There we
it may
go.
be.
Mel Robbins, do it. Let them.
Yeah. You know, I mean, for me, it's, I've gotten to this age, it's just been a different period of time. My friendships have changed, career stuff has changed. There's so many different things in the dietetic space that, some are upsetting to me, some are great. And for me, if there's one element I can control and it's my physical being and how I show up in person and how I feel in that regard, I'm going to do it. And again, I'm kind of curious to see if I were to go off of it, what happens. I feel like not everyone can play with this stuff as a science experiment, and it's not saying that I am wanting to do that, but I definitely am impressed with how it's worked thus far. And I do think for more people who have bad side effects, it's like it's a drug you're putting in your body, so it's going to be a change or a shock to your body at first, but like following, what doctors say or what other people say works might be helpful. You need to eat something, you need to drink lots of water, you need to move your body. Like that's kind of the protocol, whether you're on a GLP-1 or not in life.
Right. And to me, I feel like it just gives you like a tool to be able to accomplish all of that with a little bit less drama. But anyway, I would like for you to report back.
Yeah.
If you do decide to get off and see what happens. And where can people find you online?
So I am at homecooking.dietitian on Instagram and on TikTok, same thing, but without the dots. And then I have my website. It's homecookingdietitian, all one word.com, mostly for me to collaborate with brands on doing like social media content creation and that kind of work.
Right. But you do a lot of good recipes. They look yummy and encourage people to cook at home, which I think...
Learning how to use seasonings and spices and marinades and it's all the same few foods. It's how you prepare them. Learning how to blanch, learning how to roast.
So if you guys are interested in cooking, which you should be, and preparing your foods at home, I think it's a great account to follow. So thank you so much, Carrie, for being here today.
Thank you, Anna. It's good to see you.
You too. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the GLP-1 Hub podcast. I hope that it helped you get a better understanding of the different ways people are using this medication. And it was wonderful to have my dear friend Carrie come on. If you are loving the show, I would love a review. And remember, if you leave a review for the show, you will get a free recipe collection of choice. You have to send me a screenshot of your review at hello@glp-1hub.com. Send me a screenshot of your review and I'll email you back right away with your recipe collection of choice. When you send me that screenshot, let me know whether you want breakfast, lunch, dinner. That just helps a little bit of the back and forth. So please leave a review if you're enjoying the show. It really, really helps the show grow. We have a lot of amazing guests coming up and I hope to continue to get more and more. And now a final word from our sponsor. I'll see you guys next week. Thank you to Grunes for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. Just a reminder, Grunes are a convenient, comprehensive formula packed into just 8 gummies a day. This isn't a multivitamin, a greens gummy, or a prebiotic. It's all of those things and then some at a fraction of the price. And bonus, it tastes great. If you want to give Grunes a try, you're going to want to check them out at grunes.co. That's GRUNS.co. And you can use the code GLP1 Hub POD to get up to 52% off your order. That's GLP, the number 1 Hub POD to get up to 52% off your order.